After multiple mass graves were found at former Indian residential schools across Canada, there were calls to cancel Canada Day this year. For many, instead of wearing red and white, they were decked out in orange on July 1st to pay tribute to all the Indigenous children whose lives were lost during Canada's failures. In many areas around the city, including Barrhaven, orange streamers were hung on park fences with signs reading, "Every child matters." In his Canada Day speech, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said July 1st should be a time to reflect on reconciliation.
Following the horrific discoveries of hundreds of children at the sites of former residential schools in BC and Saskatchewan, we all stopped to reflect on the historical and ongoing injustices. And we, as Canadians, must be honest with ourselves about our history. Because in order to chart a new and better path forward, we have to recognize the terrible mistakes of our past.
It was a somber Canada Day in the capital, with many saying it's a time for mourning as this country's dark history starts to be told. In late May 2021, 215 Indigenous children's remains were found at the former Kamloops Indian Residential School in British Columbia. A few weeks later, as many as 751 unmarked graves were discovered at Maryville Indian Residential School in Saskatchewan. And just a few days ago, 182 unmarked grave sites were discovered near the location of a former residential school in the south interior of British Columbia. Now that ground radar searches are continuing, it's expected hundreds, if not thousands, of unmarked graves will be found, adding to Canada's very dark past with residential schools.
The truth is, we've got a long way to go to make things right with Indigenous peoples. But if we all pledge ourselves to doing the work, we can achieve reconciliation. We can build a better country for everyone. Because Canada's history also shows us that we can do hard things. It's a choice we make.
An Ottawa woman who's traveled up to Saskatchewan to visit with family for the first time in 2 years decided she wanted to do her own small part to show solidarity with the First Nations communities. Allison Kinahan collected messages of support at her Barrhaven home, which included signs and posters drawn by local school-aged children.
A lot of my dad's side of the family, and previously my mom's side of the family, lives within an hour of Cowessess First Nation. And knowing I was going to be visiting the area, and knowing that people across Canada want to take action, this was an opportunity to bring some messages of support and solidarity to the people of the Cowessess First Nation, to let them know that we believe in them, we stand with them, we support them, and we know that more needs to be done as settlers, and it's important to show that solidarity.
Kinahan, an educator who learned about the horrors of residential schools while in Teachers College in the 1990s, plans to take her knowledge to Holy Trinity Catholic School in September when she becomes vice principal there. In total, roughly 20 to 30 items were collected, she said, which will be dropped off at the First Nations Reserve in Saskatchewan sometime in mid-July.
And I say items because I have some traditional cedar that was gifted to bring. It's one of the 4 sacred medicines. It's not very well grown in Saskatchewan, so I have some cedar that was gifted. I have some pieces of clothing. They're beautiful, handmade, and they are a ribbon shirt and a ribbon skirt for young children. A beautiful blanket. Some cards were dropped off from people across the city, and a beautiful painting by a 15-year-old student from Ottawa, and a beautiful sentiment as well. So a number of things take, children to, older adults. So every range and age, and so it's been great.
Today, a peaceful protest also took place. The march began at Rue Eddy and Gatineau and made its way to Parliament Hill in downtown Ottawa, where well over 10,000 people took part, asking the government to bring an end to Canada Day celebrations right across the country, following the discovery of unmarked graves at 3 former residential schools. Charlie Sinat, UIN News, Ottawa.